G'day and welcome to the opening of Series 2 of the Spirited Speaker Series. My name is Ed Stenning, Marketing Director at Beam Suntory, and I'm excited to kick today's session off from our very own open office. Yes, I'm out of my COVID bunker and enjoying a very safe office environment. Now, Series 1 was focused on managing the major impacts of COVID and ways our retail partners can quickly pivot. Now, Series 2, we're going to hone in on how to build a strong rebound and a solid business in travel retail for years to come. So we're going to emphasize on key trends that will define travel retail, such as the evolution of digital, the increase of Chinese and Indian passengers, as well as the very important topic of diversity and inclusion. It's a proven fact that diversity and inclusion in the workplace is good for business. Therefore, today, I am joined by Putri Realita, who leads Global Diversity and Inclusion at Danone from their head office in Paris. Now, Putri is a true D&I expert and a real inspiration to me, so I'm super excited to have a chance to chat with Putri about the importance of unlocking diversity and inclusion, as well as inclusive leadership, especially as every leader can build a more diverse and inclusive workspace. So Putri, thanks for joining us, and I have to start with the first question. Let's get something foundational down first. What is D&I?
Yeah, very good first question. Diversity and inclusion is such a big word, right? I was born and raised in Indonesia and was based in Danone, Indonesia back then. And before I started this role as the global D&I lead based in the headquarters of Danone in Paris, I knew very little about D&I. And when you ask someone in Indonesia about what does diversity mean to them, they probably will answer with gender equality or religion diversity. And similarly, with people in Argentina, when you ask the same questions, they would probably answer with gender equality or LGBTQ. So diversity needs to be looked at within the context of in the different countries. To give you another example about the recent very unfortunate incidents in the US about racism, while the word racism resonates very strongly with people born and raised in the US, it may not resonate the same way in the other parts of the world. And inclusion is also a definition that came up later when people realized that actually, without inclusion, diversity will not bring any benefits or advantage to the company or to the organizations. One famous quote about an easy way to remember D&I is the quote from Verena Myers, the head of D&I of Netflix. She said that diversity is like inviting people to a party, and inclusion is asking them to dance together. So it's important to note that diversity can be achieved through policies like recruitment policy, but inclusion is delivered by individuals, just like you and me, through our behaviors every single day.
So, Putri, tell us, why do organizations and companies have to embrace D&I?
Well, different companies have a different trigger to initiate or launch D&I. I give you some examples. Unilever included D&I as part of their sustainable living plan launched in 2010 because they believe that D&I should be a key part of delivering a sustainable business going forward. And it's the same with the travel retail business. According to the International Air Transport Association, the number of airline passengers will double between 2016 and 2035. And these potential customers are people from different generations, millennials, baby boomers, Gen X, and also different culture, China, Middle East, Americas. And there are also extensive research out there talking about the business case of D&I. One of the most famous are from McKinsey, Diversity Matters in 2015, and Delivering Performance through D&I in 2019. The report found that companies in the top quartile for gender diversity on their executive teams were 21% more likely to experience above average profitability than companies in the bottom quartile. It also reported that companies with the most ethnically diverse executive teams are 33% more likely to outperform their peers on profitability.
So what are the real tangible initiatives that an organization could do to quickly evaluate the D&I agenda across the organization?
Yeah, this is, I think, the most important questions of all. D&I sounds like a beautiful concept, right? But how do we make it tangible? Before we jump into doing initiatives, the first and foremost important thing to do is to conduct an assessment and analysis to really know where we are as an organization. This would include looking at our employees' data on gender, ethnicity, or age, for example, and break them down by regions, by functions, or by business units to really find out what the problem is and where. Also, to find out where we are in terms of inclusion, we can look at our people engagement survey results and do a deep analysis to see how inclusive do our people think about the culture of the company. Then based on this, we can build a clear roadmap with KPIs and key milestones. And then the second one is if you want to quickly elevate the D&I agenda across our organization, we need to get commitment from the top. It probably sounds cliche, but it really makes a big difference when our top management, in this case, the CEO and his team, are committed to D&I. And this commitment needs to be translated into actions, such as, for example, our CEO always challenges the talent team if there are no women or non-European in the succession plan candidates or new hires. And then the third one is building awareness through organization, through our D&I campaign. And this will also help elevate quickly the agenda and engage our employees in the process. In Danone, for example, we invite our people who are passionate about the topic to become D&I champions, so they can contribute to drive changes in the organization or in their regions or business units. And these are not only people from HR, but also from other functions like marketing, sales, finance, etc. And many other companies are using this approach as well, such as Heineken, Unilever, Expedia, Spotify, even also Beam Suntory. Normally, we have regular meetings with these champions and ambassadors to share best practices and make them feel as a community of change makers. Another way to elevate the D&I agenda quickly is to create a public commitment, engaging credible external partner like UN Women for gender, or Valuable 500 for disability, or Stonewall for LGBTQ. For Danone, for example, we launch a public commitment to implement gender-neutral parental policy in all countries where we operate by the end of 2020. Unilever, for example, they launch a public commitment with Valuable 500 that they will have a certain percentage of their workforce are people with disabilities by 2025. I found that this public commitment really pushes the D&I agenda internally, and it also builds some kind of pride within our employees. Last but not least, engaging our brands would also elevate the agenda. As an FMCG company or fast-moving consumer goods company, our brands have the power to change and influence the conversations in the society. One example from Danone is from our bottled water brand in Mexico, it's called Bonafont, who has been in the front of gender equality fights for many years. P&G and Unilever have done a lot in having their brands create these conversations. For example, like Ariel in India on promoting gender equality, the role of women in the family, or for example, Always. If you've seen Running Like a Girl campaign, this is also something that P&G has done. Nike is another example who really fights through their commercials about gender equality. Pixar is another example, and Heineken, who talks more about accepting differences with their Open Your World campaign. In addition to that, transforming the HR processes is another key initiative that would elevate D&I quickly. And this starts from reviewing our recruitment processes talent review, performance review, exit interview, for example, to see how we can remove bias from these processes. For example, in Danone, we asked our HR and talent team to put in place, and we call it inclusive diversity guardian angel in each talent review meeting. And this guardian angel's role is to challenge biased comments in a meeting to ensure that the talent assessment happen in the meeting is really based on evidence rather than based on personal judgment.
So, Putri, what can a manager or a leader do in their day to day to make a difference to the D&I transformation and evaluate the agenda within her or his scope?
Yes, this is the question that will really help you to bring DNI to life in your everyday's behaviors. So I would like to emphasize again that team leaders play a big role in making DNI a reality in the company. And we know that based on research that DNI brings more innovations and better team performance, but this will only be achieved if the team has an inclusive leader. And it is not easy to become an inclusive leader. It requires a lot of efforts from the leaders, but it is worth it. Deloitte published this guideline on 6 traits of inclusive leadership, which I found very pragmatic. I will share some examples here. First, as a team leader, we need to have conviction about D&I, and this means that D&I is aligned with our personal values, but also we believe that D&I can bring commercially with respect to talent, innovation, consumers, and new markets. Then, inclusive leaders have an open mindset, a desire to understand how others view and experience the world, and a tolerance for ambiguity. They always seek for different perspectives, improve their listening skills, and more importantly, always think to hire or promote people who are different from ourselves. Last but not least, highly inclusive leaders are mindful of personal and organizational bias and self-regulate to help ensure fair play. Some of these biases are, for example, in group favoritism, which is a tendency to favor members of in-groups or people just like us, either for promotions or assignments of key projects. This bias can really impact how we make decisions on people, but also about our work, which relates to people, such as our consumers or our customers, which then at the end of the day, it will include how we perform in our business.
Awesome, Putri. Such wonderful advice that both folks like me can action and how we can drive the wider agenda to build the business to better suit both our customers and our shoppers' needs. So thank you, Putri, for taking the time to connect. You are a superstar. Now, folks, that's all from us on the Spirited Speaker series. Any speakers you'd like to hear from or feedback you have, let us know. So from us in the Open Beam Suntory office in Madrid, Spain, cheers.